Alright, so if you haven't already, visit this video and make sure you understand the fundamentals of DnB breaks, because it covers a lot of the simple stuff that I'm not going to go over again here, but we are going to look at those percussion sounds, the in-between sounds, the things that make it all shuffle together. Okay, we're going to start with the most fundamental DnB rhythm there is, which is the syncopated kick with the snare on the 2 and the 4, which is this pattern, which you've heard approximately 784 million times. So the way this works in terms of percussion, we end up filling the gaps, and what we really want to happen is the percussion to kind of land on the and the and is the one in between these two here. So we've got 1, 2, and would be here. So we would end up putting a percussion here, right? And the hat works fine here. When we've got the syncopation, so we've got nothing landing on the 1 and 2 and 3, but there's nothing here. This is where it's nice to put a different percussive sound. And in here I have what I call a shuffle, which you can hear is just like a little right? So when you sync that up with the other original hi-hat, you get this. It just makes that nice little shuffle into the syncopated kick feel like everything's rolling forward, even though it's actually a really rigid beat. It's sat exactly on, it's super robotic. Today's video is sponsored by DistroKid. They let me get my music out to all of the major distributors, and they do that at a price an independent artist can easily afford. If you're ready to get your music or beats out there and want to release an unlimited amount of music each year, check the link in the description below for a discount off of your first year of unlimited distribution with DistroKid. So let's have a look at the percussive sounds and how we would go about making those. So we're going to leave our kick snare pattern and make ourselves something a little bit different and unique. I like this little electronic type thing. In Logic, I can just drop it in a quick sampler like that in your DAW. You do whatever you do in your DAW. And I'm just going to cut the tail off there and give it a little fade. And I'm going to drop the polyphony down to mono so that it always cuts itself off. So let's make ourselves a pattern with the hat here. And what we can do really simply is pop that just on the ands in each bar. So in between what would be the main count, right? So now we're going to have super rigid feeling, but it kind of does the job. And with a really short sound like this as well, we can get away with having it on the 1, 2, 3 and 4 as well. But to get away from that rigidity, we want to use a bit of a velocity curve. So in Logic up here, I can grab this guy and I can give it some velocity, and this is just going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 with just a different level of sound across each. Alternatively, hopefully you can hear as the velocity changes, so does the feeling of the rhythm. If we were to do something more like this, and we really do go all over the place, right? And again, it feels like the rhythm's moving back and forward and up and down, even though it's super rigid. It's just a velocity change. So let's go back to just having it on the and. I'm going to use ADSR just to make it really short and clicky. Alright, let's have a look at how we would make something that does like that little shuffle feel right before the syncopated kick. Here I'll find something like a hat sound and a shaker to go together. That little tin hat's kind of alright, we'll grab that. That's even got a shuffle in it, but we'll just take that little shake there. Okay, so these two we kind of want to work in harmony with one another. We know exactly where they're going to go. They're going right on here, because the syncopated kick's going to land on the and over here. But we want them to be slightly off time with each other. So we're going to pull them slightly off the grid, and if we select both channels like this, get them to work together, and hopefully that'll give us sort of what we're after. Yeah, just a tiny little shuffle, a little bit off the grid. Again, we want it to feel a lot faster and way more up and down. What we need to do here is move this guy slightly off the grid as well. I'm going to kind of sit in there with those shuffles. And you're getting that little rumble into it now. Now the other thing that massively affects this is the quantization of, say, these hats and the rhythm they have overall. We select all of them here. At the minute, it's on 16th note quantization. It's going to snap that one back. We won't worry about it. We then have something called swing. We've been talking about this 1 and 2 and 3 scenario. This swings those notes based on this rhythm. But look, we can move swing up to 100 while they're on 16ths. We don't get any movement whatsoever. But if we switch that and put them on 8th notes, now we swing them. Now it starts swinging the and, because 8th notes is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so forth. So listen to how different this can sound. Right, and if we only swing the hi-hats and have them slightly off time but everything else right on time, well, the whole break now feels like it's pushing forward more, right? Now if we take it too far, it kind of feels like it's stopping and starting. If we have it just a little bit off, or maybe even a quarter, it just helps it drive everything forward. Now if we take all of our percussion and apply that to it, we end up with something a little bit different. Now we're going to move our little shuffle here. And then we want to move each individual note so they kind of roll into one another. And you've got to be careful here. And the other way we can do this is to take these notes, and I'll copy this hat channel out, and we'll take where will be the little shuffle note away, purely so we can see what's going on. Obviously not a practical way to work. If we now take these three, they're all shuffled all over the show, we can take our quantize and put that on something like 32nd, right? That will allow us to then snap within the grid of where everything else is. We can snap that onto 32nd, which is going to be in between these notes here, and that will give us more of a shuffled sound that's within the rhythm that we're already working in. Now, one of the last things that we can do is look to put a shaker in. Yeah, we'll take this loop. Let's go to one shot, and let's just take that part there. Probably sounds like it'll be alright. Yeah, that'll do. And polyphony down to mono. And we can do a pattern for this on 16ths. So we're on 16th note quantized. That is 16 notes across the one bar, right? Like so. Definitely need to vary the velocity a lot, or it's just going to sound super rigid. If we do that and then we apply a similar swing to it, and we do that on 16ths this time rather than the 1/8, because we've got the extra notes, we've now got 2 rhythms and 2 swings going all within our percussion. I'm just going to mix up the velocities in here really quickly by going to functions, MIDI transform, humanize. I can take that down to 0, just operate that on 10. There you go, that'll do. Let's mix those up. The odds of those two landing next to each other is kind of crazy. There you go. So now we've got a shaker as well. Let's just use the ADSR to narrow that in a bit. So hopefully you can hear now those two separate rhythms working together with the little shuffle, bringing it into the syncopated kick. We now team that up with the hi-hats from the break. We're going to be well away onto getting something. Now we've got all those different rhythms going, and that's great. That gives us all kind of push and pull kind of feel. You might want a way more rigid and controlled break if you're doing, say, main room DnB or neuro even. We take everything in this instance and now we quantize it all onto 16ths. We have to do 16ths because our highest resolution here, 16ths on the shaker, and we do it all to something like 1/16 swing B. It's going to snap everything into that domain and we'll end up with. See, it's not nearly as shuffly, but we can still use the Q swing. And we're going to shuffle everything together. Because we're in 16ths, it's only going to move our shakers though. But we still get a bit of a vibe with it. Now we've done a 56% swing. Let's take our hats. We know the hats are on 1/8. Let's do 1/8 swing B. And then we can push the hats into a similar territory. But we can pull the shakers back with it, or even double them over.